There have been suggestions that Israel will be hitting more what they call government symbols here. So it'll be interesting. I don't think they're going to go after the government house or parliament or anything like that, but it'll be interesting to see how much of the government structure they will hit. That is something that I have to admit angers people here quite a bit. I think a lot of people here on the ground say it's one thing to be fighting Hezbollah, it's another thing to be destroying the entire country. Julie?
All right, Greg Burke in Beirut. Thank you so much, Greg. So, you know, we're talking a lot about a truce here in the United States, but how do the IDF troops there on the ground actually feel about a truce? Well, our next guest just returned from the Middle East. In fact, early this morning, here now is Brigadier General in the Israeli Defense Forces Reserves, Yehiel Gozal. He's also National Director of the Friends of Israeli Defense Forces, an organization which helps support social, educational, and recreational programs for Israeli soldiers and their families. General, thank you so much for being here. You know, I thought what would be interesting is having you here is by asking our reporters out in the field, hey, you know, if you got a chance to sit down with a general like I will today, what would you ask him? So from Jonathan Hunt, he is in Beirut. His question to you is, why strike Beirut in the daybreak hours and during the sundown? Exactly what were they going after?
I would ask him that I think that they should show exactly what the soldiers or the military of Israel are doing. We are very careful. The fact that we are not using all our troops, it's because we want to be very careful not to destroy civil infrastructure, not to destroy Lebanon as Lebanon. We are trying not to touch the Lebanese military. And this is something that maybe you have to ask. How many Lebanese positions have we attacked?
Okay, and so in other words, you are trying to spare the lives of civilians, and unfortunately, a lot of the message out there, the mainstream liberal media, is in fact telling the opposite side of the story, that Israel's coming on too hard and too many Lebanese civilians are dying, but in fact, Israel is protecting itself from Hezbollah.
Absolutely, and as I say, I even feel that we don't protect ourselves as we're supposed to do.
So you think they should be going in stronger?
Absolutely. That's what I feel. Although that the Hezbollah would never show you the real damage that they have as a terror organization. More than 420 Hezbollah terrorists or fighters, whatever you call them, were killed in the last 4 weeks.
And I'm glad that you brought that up, because this is something that the producers and I were talking about before the show, because the death toll numbers are very different. IDF says one thing, the Lebanese government says another. You just said 400 plus Hezbollah fighters. According to the Associated Press, the reporters there in Lebanon who are getting their information from the Lebanese government, they say about 50 Hezbollah fighters. You guys are about 350 off. So
yeah,
why are we getting such different numbers?
Yeah, we are acting as a military, and when we say 420, at least it means that 420 bodies that we count on the ground, that we saw, that we face, that we know for sure. Probably there are more, much more, because we are not everywhere. We attacked by Air Force, we don't know the result.
And Rick Leventhal pointed something out, our reporter in Kiryat Shimona, that when the Lebanese government come out and say so many civilians are being killed, that perhaps they're not mentioning that those civilians could be the families, the wives, the children of Hezbollah fighters. And in essence, they are civilians, but they happen to be married to or the children of terrorists.
Yeah, absolutely.
Our next guest is a former terrorist himself who was a member of the Palestinian Liberation Organization, and he says what we really need to do is let Hezbollah fire off the rest of the rockets. Here's Walid Shabat. He is the author of Why I Left Jihad, The Root of Terrorism and the Return of Radical Islam. And thanks for being here, Walid. So you think that we should just sit back, or Israel should just sit back and let Hezbollah continue pounding Israel? I guess you probably have a good explanation for that.
Well, I think if we could allow this to keep going on, Israel will have the right to unleash hell on these terrorists over there. I mean, they keep talking about the civilian casualties. Where were the Lebanese people or the Shia sector while thousands and hundreds of thousands marching on the streets, thousands of rockets being imported through Iran via Syria, marchings in the street, Nazi style, training in the streets, clamoring by the hundreds of thousands in the streets, the death to America, death to Israel. You know, what were these people doing? We're thinking it's an Israeli-Hezbollah war. It's not. It's an Israeli-Iranian war. Israel is having the war war with Iran. Eventually, Israel or the U.S. or somebody has to go and destroy the mechanism that Iran is creating. We have to have a war in Iran. And Americans don't like war, but it must be done. There is no other solution. We have been given a choice. They keep talking about peace, cessation of hostilities. How is it that we have a cessation of hostilities and make peace between Hezbollah, which is a terrorist organization? I thought we were on war on terror. If Iran is a terrorist state, what are we supposed to be doing?
The turmoil in the Middle East have been beamed all over the world, including a photograph we want to show you. This is a Reuters photo of an Israeli airstrike in Beirut, or at least that was what it was supposed to be. But now charges that the Lebanese photographer doctored this picture to make the situation look worse than it really was. And this isn't the only photo that he's accused of altering.
This kind of thing qualifies as visual propaganda, playing with the truth, playing with reality in order to make people think what you want them to think.
Ask you, everyone at home, what do you think? Are media outlets rigging the news? According to those pictures, maybe they are. And is the mainstream media staying fair and balanced in all their coverage of the turmoil going on in the Middle East? And then what impact will that fake photo controversy have on Reuters' credibility? I'm joined now by Ellis Hennigan, Newsday columnist and Fox News contributor, and Joe Pagliarulo, conservative radio talk show host over there in Texas. And Joe, let me ask you, was this just a low blow by Reuters or an honest and unbiased mistake?
I don't think it was an honest and unbiased at all. At this point, what we have to say to ourselves as news consumers is nothing that Reuters puts out can be trusted from here on out. And it probably could have been trusted before. The whole Jessica Lynch thing quite some time ago really started this ball rolling. But Reuters, you can't tell me didn't eyeball that picture at all. My 6-year-old daughter can look at that and say that's been photoshopped. It's a very simple equation. It's a very simple thing to do. The fact that there are no editors who looked at that picture and said, wait a second, this looks an awful lot like that plume, and it just looks like it's been moved over a little bit. And especially the one with the missiles coming down or the flares, they're all three the same exact thing. All you have to do is look at it for more than 2 seconds.
But Ellis, you apparently think that that Reuters are a neutral news organization and that they provide a great service.
Gosh, all of you guys need to take a deep breath here. Reuters, when the second an issue was raised, investigated it, did exactly the right thing. They canned the photographer. They rid their archives of all of his work. They apologized and corrected their mistake. Listen, the truth of the matter is that the vast majority of journalists in the war zone are doing tremendous work, including Reuters and the AP, which frankly together are the gold standards of objective journalism. Do they ever make a mistake?
Oh, I don't believe that.
What they do
I
is they
think AP might
correct
be
the
right
mistake.
Now, but Reuters is not the gold standard of anything else. Come on.
Mistake and move along, which is exactly what they did in this case.
Well, I think the important question here, Ellis, is why did they correct the mistake? Because bloggers here in America said, hey, look, there's a problem here. There's an editor who looks at photos there at Reuters who had no clue that this picture was doctored.
Had it not been for the bloggers,
Julie, you see the picture. Hello?
Yeah, but do you think if it hadn't been for the bloggers that Reuters would have gone ahead and figured this out on their own? Or does it take bloggers to catch a media outlet for being biased?
Well, let's be frank here. No one knows because that's not the way it happened. But the moment it was called to their attention by outsiders, they responded in the most experienced and responsible way. Nobody can argue with that.
Responsible. I get doing it once, but doctoring 2 photos? I mean, this guy's taken 920 pictures, and we're relying on these photos to know what's going on. We're not there. He is.
Come on, Ellis.
Listen, here's the reality, guys. All news organizations, big news organizations, from time to time make mistakes. What separates the good ones, those of us like Fox and others, is that when we see those mistakes, we correct them quickly. And no, it's true. I mean,
we appreciate that.
We've all made mistakes. Anyone who's been in this business understands that.
Hey. No, Ellis, listen, I was a television news anchor for 12 years.
Did you ever make a mistake?
There's never.
Never made a mistake.
But if I did, I never made a mistake on the air because there was a check and balance system that was in place. We had a news director, we had editorials, we had executive producers, we had associate producers. There was a check and balance system that you're telling me Reuters, the gold standard in journalism, doesn't have? That's ridiculous that a blogosphere in America had to show this to them. It's crazy.
Let me be the honest journalist in this conversation. I have made a mistake in the past. And Joe, 12 years, and you must be the only person in American journalism who's never made a mistake. What the professional people
do is admit their mistakes. I never made a mistake that wasn't caught by somebody along the line.
Admit their mistakes, correct them, and move on. That's all you can ask of any human organization. Reuters did right in this case.
Okay, but 2 wrongs don't make a right, and there were 2 wrong pictures. True. But hey, I'm not the judge. Speaking of the judge, he's coming up. But anyway, Ellis Hennigan and Joe Pagliarulo, we thank you.
Don't make any mistakes, Julie.
I'll try not to. I got Roger Ailes watching, so he'll catch my mistakes, and he will call the control room. He did last night.
Thank you, guys.
All right, guys.